Call to order the City of Carroll City Council special call meeting and data center question and answer workshop. Tuesday, September 23rd at 7 p.m. We're going to start with a roll call. We have one member absent, Lori Allen. We'll now have an invocation and pledge of allegiance led by Councilwoman Tanya Clausen.
Father, we come before you this evening giving you thanks for our opportunity to serve the citizens of Carroll. Lord, we just ask that every step we take, that we'll be mindful of your will, be mindful of our citizens, and be mindful of our city. We ask that you continue to lead us and guide us in all the steps ahead and all the decisions that are made. May it be your blessing. Lord, we just ask that you continue to watch over us, watch over our staff, our first responders, and keep us safe. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on the agenda is public comments. We do have several right here. When I call your name, you can speak now or you can speak when we actually discuss the agenda item. Jenny Roberts Axelrod, you can speak now if you'd like to. You'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you. This is quicker than I thought it was going to be. Okay.
Good evening.
So I have a few things that I'd like to talk about a little bit with the data center. I realize that what the city can do is decide what the zoning is going to be, not necessarily what a private property owner can or cannot build. I don't really know a whole lot about law necessarily, but I am wondering if the city decides if a data center or any other industrial build is put in the city or within the I can't remember what it's called, but there's a ring just immediately around the city of influence.
The ETJ.
That's it, yeah, okay. Anyway, if it's possible at this point in this construction decision to decide whether or not any data center or any other large industrial development should have to comply to certain restrictions based on water and power. Because I know water is a very big concern. The Edwards Aquifer is there, but it doesn't recharge as quickly as they're gonna want it, and a lot of people have to use it, and if we run out of water, it's gonna be a major problem. And also for the electric grid. So there are several different options which I would love to see be considered for this build. If they're, and I put some notes on the back of my thing, but if the city decides that any data center or large industrial development that gets built has to use a closed water system for cooling, that would constrain the water use to wastewater or gray water only, and only occasionally require a top-up, so there will not be a continuous withdrawal from the natural resources above ground, but also in the aquifer below. And these systems are proven to be found, excuse me, I'm a little nervous, they're found to be a useful way of cooling down these data centers without losing water and without experiencing a lot of evaporation of water. So I would really like to see the city require any data center that gets built to require a closed water loop system in that build. Also, in doing some of my investigating, I found something really interesting where if they cannot use a closed loop system, or if some electricity was required to be used, other areas and locations and communities have found that using wind turbines to provide direct electric to that data center is a viable alternative. Traditionally, a data center would be tied to a large wind farm, but there is one location a company called One World Computing in Woodstock, Illinois, which is a nice small area, that powers its data center with a single 131-foot wind turbine. And so if we require data centers or large industrial builds to build in a responsible, environmentally responsible way that has a very small impact on Gerald itself, we can either convince them to build responsibly, or we can convince them to build somewhere else. And that's what I wanted to.
Thank you. Okay, next we have Vasu Rapati.
Good evening. So I'm a technical guy, so I can respect the development and all. So we are developing as Marawa Holdings, like we are developing mixed development close to FM 487 and 305 area. So my main concern, like that is from any data centers. So the noise, and then they produce a lot of noise and then vibration, because we are building some residential multifamily development close to the area, just beside the school. So we'd like to understand the concern, how do we mitigate the noise, and then because data centers, they need to run 24/7, they need to use a lot of diesel generators for the backup, all those things. So it may produce a lot of noise as well as the pollution, so a lot of air pollution. So I would like to understand how do we mitigate, because collected some data like in Virginia, Raspberry, all the data centers like close by residential communities, they are raising the concerns about all these things. So I just want to understand how do we mitigate those kind of concerns. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. And next we have John Simon.
As in Harmon, but not much. Okay, thank you for giving me time to do this, and I appreciate from the council having this open meeting. I have major concerns about data centres, not just here but all over the world at the moment. I've just spent some time in Europe, in places like Finland, and they have major issues with a lot of data centres. Initially, small towns like Gerald are imposed upon by various corporations, groups. It could be Google, or in this case it's a consortium, and they're seen as easy picks. College Station has just been through that, and they voted to say no after a massive number of residents said, no, we don't want one here. I live just up the road at Home Place. Any data centre that's built, I'll be able to see. I really don't want to see a factory, because a data centre is a modern day, 21st century factory. It's a different industrial revolution. We talked about primary, secondary, tertiary, quaternary and quinary. We're in the quinary world, where all these developments really do need to be in a technology park. Most countries now look at a technology park. I've got examples in Australia where they've developed technology parks for this type of enterprise. We need it, yeah, there's no doubt about that. I'm not saying we don't need it, but it needs to be right in the right location. Certainly not next to an education precinct. We have a high school that will expand. You look at the demographics for Gerald, it's going to continue to grow. In the next few years, it's probably going to be one of the fastest growing places in the country. We need space for residential areas. I was at the meeting where this was zoned for residential. Good idea, great. You're going to have trees, you're going to have turf, you're going to have green space. But at the moment, you can list off power usage, water usage, diesel generators, if that's what you use, health issues with the noise and the output from generators or whatever you're using. We have right now in Gerald a water shortage. We're on 1 day a week watering. Yet we want to bring in something that will use more water than the whole of the town, especially Old Town. I also looked at some topographic maps for the 150 acres. There's actually a drainage pattern that runs right down through that, which is really important. When you start messing with that, you have all sorts of issues. Downstream, upstream, the whole lot. So I would hope that the people involved are looking at that, how you can mitigate that. There are ways, we know, but that's a really important area. The other thing too is if you are going to build something like this, how high is it going to be? 3 stories? No, not acceptable in a residential educational area. Will there be a green belt between the school and this development? And I'm not talking about a row of trees, I'm talking about 100 feet green belt going down to block it off. That's logical, and that's what a lot of areas are doing. There's one in San Antonio now, they're calling it a campus, and I'm not sure why they call it a campus, but they've got a whole lot of green areas in it. So there are solutions. A couple of other things. Community benefits. There's also another development, Walmart, brings lots of jobs, brings a multiplier effect. This will not, we know it won't. In the long term, it may have 40, 50 jobs maximum. It's not going to bring in any more. And a lot of the jobs will be security, because these places have to have high security. And in that, what's going to happen? There are going to be floodlights on 24/7, like a lot of places now, where the communities, Balkans and all that can see those. That's an issue to me. So I've just got a couple of things to finish off with.
Sir, you're 3 minutes.
I'm done?
Is,
That's all right, I'm good.
sorry. Thank
Somebody
you.
else will pick it up. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we have Melissa McCook.
You said,
You think?
can I donate part of my time to this fellow? Or you don't do that for this kind of meeting?
Yeah, we
Don't normally do
don't
that.
normally do that.
I just wanted to ask, I don't know where I have seen this posted online somewhere, so who knows if it's true or not true. If somebody could address if they were anticipating in the future having high power transmission lines coming through Gerald.
We were not able to respond to questions.
No, I understand, but I figured if there's a
Later on?
discussion later.
Next we have Houston Brodigan.
Yeah, can I save my comments until we see what they have to present?
Yes, sir. Next we have Amanda Williams.
I'd like to save mine as well.
Next we have Jeff Sedell.
I want to say mine too.
We have William Thompson. We have Deanne Acton.
Hi, I'm here to voice my opposition to the data center as well. For many, many reasons. My son goes to the high school for one of the biggest reasons, but also I live in this community and I want this community to grow in a really wonderful way. And I don't feel like this is the kind of growth we need. I'm worried about health issues, the air pollution. They've talked about the ways in which these kind of data centers create asthma, cancers, all kinds of things. And this is next to our high school. Noise issues, 50 to 85 dBs generally for these data centers, next to our high school. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Problematic. Water issues. I don't know about y'all, but my lawn is all brown and ugly because I can never water my lawn because we're always under water restrictions. So how exactly we're going to have all this extra water for a data center, I do not understand. And from what I see, it's like 5 million gallons of drinking water most of these things take, which is horrific. Electrical power issues. I don't know about y'all, but I was here in the area with the week-long no power grid issue. And that was horrible. I still have like trauma from that experience. I don't want to experience that again. Living in a tent on my bed because it was so cold and ridiculous. No, thank you. So we need to figure that out too. That's not okay. Light pollution, also a problem. They're talking about this idea of like what are things that can be done to make Data Center better. One of the things is for them to pay attention to location, right? And when you're putting this next to a high school, I have to wonder whether you really care about this community at all. It just feels completely and utterly ridiculous that we're even having to have this conversation about this kind of thing being put next to a high school with kids. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you. Next, we have Melissa Haymaker.
Good evening. I'm here to voice my opposition to this data center being built. I am a mother of a 3-year-old and a 7-year-old who will be going to school, high school, after this is built. And I'm very concerned. I work full-time, I go to school full-time, and I'm a mother full-time. I have no time, and I'm here tonight. That is how concerned I am. We're on stage 3 water restrictions right now, and this uses up a lot of drinking water. We're gonna be here a long time. Like, what are the impacts 20 years from now? My kids are gonna be here. What are they gonna be seeing 20 years from now? And we're on water restrictions right now. I've seen that it raises energy costs. I can't afford my energy bill to go up even higher. And you know, all the health reasons that go with it. I'm just very concerned, and I hope that y'all all take that into consideration when y'all are making decisions, because we will not forget that. 20 years from now, when my kids are graduating high school and they're going on with their careers, and if they have health conditions, we will not forget that this is where this decision was made. That's all I have.
Thank you. Next, we have Ken Holman.
Mr. Mayor, Council, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time. I already spoke my piece last week. I would wait to hear what they say, but I know they're going to have counters for everything we possibly can bring up. We're going to complain about possible light pollution. We'll get promises of this being a dark sky environment. We'll get promises, oh, there won't be any noise. There'll be noise. This is fundamentally the wrong location. This is a 150-acre industrial project being placed next to a high school and directly across from a residential neighborhood of 90 homes. This isn't an expansion of the community. It's like attaching a factory to all of our living rooms. It's a basic failure of planning. It's also a reckless wager with what I deem already a deceitful partner. First, articles came out saying we would have a $7 million tax revenue annually. Next week, I saw an article saying, oh, it's $3 million. Now, I've just read, as of a week ago, that they'll already be seeking tax abatements. So what does the town exactly get out of revenue? Not that revenue would even count in this. No amount of money that this town could bring in would counteract what could impact the 1,000 current students at Gerald High, but also the 90 families that live right diagonal from where this monstrosity will be. We have women, children, elderly, men that live there all the time. A lot of us work remote, but the soundtrack of HVAC systems will become the soundtrack of our lives. This is, in my mind, a classic bait and switch. The developer has already shown bad faith. Press releases came out saying this was a done deal. They're already breaking ground. Everyone get excited what's come to Gerald before voices were even heard from the community. If I was a council person, I would be hopping mad. This made all of Gerald immediately get put in a bad light, like it was a done deal. And we hadn't even talked about it yet. If they're willing to steamroll us with this, it's a done deal, we're breaking ground, we're excited to move there, it's coming. What will happen once they actually do have their foot in the door? I have found zero relevant experience with these folks. They, according to what I've seen, have not built a data center anywhere before. One of their companies appears to be very skilled at putting transmission lines, but that's all I could find. We're dealing with a very big wager that these folks will actually build a plant that's dark sky compliant and won't make a lot of noise. That's a big wager, and I'm not willing to bet my real estate property on it or my sanity. 150 acres will be a permanent blight on the neighborhood. It'll kill all the hope of residents ever moving back in. I would have never bought my house where I bought it if I knew it would be flipped from residential to industrial within 3 years. I understand my time's probably up.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate your
Thank
time.
Okay, next item on the agenda, and that's number one, presentation, discussion, consideration of possible action regarding the 2025-2026 fiscal year budget for the Carroll Economic Development Corporation.
I'm going to be presenting the budget to you this evening on behalf of the Carroll Economic Development Corporation. You have a printed copy in front of you. Some of the things we're going to cover is I'm going to just give you a recap of the EDC. We'll go over the board members, their compliance. I'll give you the history of where they are from year to date on fiscal year 2025, and then I'll show you the proposed budget for 2026. We'll talk about where we're at on staff and have it open for any questions you may have. Current board members for the economic development is President Larry Bush, Secretary is Tim Jordan, Treasurer is Joe Simmons. I'm serving as the ex officio between City Council and EDC, and member at large is Tony Hickson, and they have one vacant seat at this time. Regarding our compliance, the EDC is a type A, and so it's legally a separate entity from the City of Carroll, and it must comply with Texas Local Government Code, Chapter 501. Because it's a type A corporation, they can undertake type B projects. It still falls under type A budget submission rule. That rule is Texas Local Government Code 501.073A requires an EDC authorizing unit, City Council, or the authorizing unit on behalf of the EDC to approve all programs and expenditures of an EDC and annually review any financial statements of the EDC. This includes the EDC's budget, which is why it's on the agenda this evening. Therefore, the City Council needs to approve the Carroll EDC's budget for the upcoming fiscal year. On behalf of the EDC, they held a meeting on July 23rd for a budget workshop. They met again on August 13th and unanimously approved their budget after a lot of discussion. The City of Carroll EDC, they must present its budget to the council for adoption and approval, and they cannot adopt and spend from its own budget without council approval. Here's a recap on the next page of where it's projected to end fiscal year 2025 budget. Revenues projected was $463,000 in sales tax and interest was $24,770, total $487,792. As of year to date, in time frame this ended in August, was $447,143 is what they've received so far. Total expenditures was $245,447. There's nothing else expected during this last month that we can see, so that will close it with the expenditures at $245,447. Net change in fund balances. It's projected to be at $928,828. that's where they're projecting to end their year this year. And that is just a recap of the breakdown of what they're projecting in their revenues, for $463,021.54, and interest at $24,773.85. This next page is the budget that they have submitted for our consideration. They're asking for $50,000 for a small business program, $7,500 for business retention and expansion. Travel and training, $41,000. Dues and subscriptions is $36,000. I'm so sorry. I'm reading from the current budget. I apologize. Those were items that were removed. I apologize. Oh, that's okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Budget?
This is not their proposed budget, my apologies. This is where they expended their funds in 2025. So 2025, let's just go to the bottom, closed out expenses to date at $245,447, which is a recap of what I just discussed. The next page is their proposed budget. Income, revenue is proposed in sales tax, $543,112. Interest, $40,000. To close out at $583,112 is total revenue. Expenses, dues and subscriptions is what they're asking for $50,000. Contract labor and engineering, $75,000. Contract labor auditor, $3,000. Legal fees, $15,000. Sherrill Community Library, $10,000. Website, $10,000. Marketing, $20,000. Administration, $81,161. To break that down, that's split to cover the BDC portion of the staff member at $75,000 and to reimburse the city for admin fees of $6,139. Total expense would be $269,161. And just a reminder, currently EDC does not have a staff member. The current board and city staff are working together to keep all their tasks accomplished, which is why they've asked for me to give their presentation this evening. The board and the city are currently structuring a job description to proceed with the hiring, as we talked about sharing a role with the EDC. And city council and EDC approved sharing this position and the expense of it. And I am available for any questions to the best of my ability.
I got two questions. Sure. One, so it has to be a clarification on what's regarding looking dirty code 501.073A and requiring us to authorize or to approve all programs and expenditures. Does it mean that it's something that they want to do and we as a council don't agree that's the best thing to do, is still required to approve it? Is that what that way the law is?
Yes.
The next question is for city staff. Last week I was out of town, but I got your email regarding the compliance with the Senate. When I got home Monday, I reached out to Mr. Bush and asked if he got what he needed. He said that he had not received any documentation. As of Monday when I called.
Since March, since the EDC got formed back in March, I've been sending information, reminders, schedules, and I provide all the emails, and I can provide all the emails.
So we have you.
We have proved that we have given all the information and all the tools that he needed to work with compliance.
I'd like to question whether or not we hired a director. I think you mentioned that you don't
Not
have a
question.
director now.
Not question and answer portion of the meeting.
She said we could ask questions. Was that just for you? Council. Okay.
Yep.
We're gonna pay that's the salary of $75,000.
It was projected at 8 months. Or perhaps.
Okay, that's competitive, to be able to find.
That was based on the recent survey of Senator Homestead.
Can we go into clarification? On that salary for the EDC members, the city agreed to pay up to 50% of the cost, depending on how much is a chair position. Sorry, because EDC ended up using that person 70% of the time, and with Betty, then we are just a contract.
Oh. So who will be conducting the interviews for that position? Would it be the city or the EDC?
It would be between both, because it's a combined position, we want to make sure that you can work for both entities.
Can I just ask that you speak up just a little bit? We're in a bigger area. We're in a little bit bigger area, so we just want to make sure we get everything.
No question.
Any questions? I will note our last year, 2024, 2025, budget amendment for $484,000. They're proposing $269,000. So it's a substantial decrease from last year's budget.
I just have one more question. Since it's such a substantial decrease, are we hurting ourselves anywhere? Or are they hurting themselves not being able to do something like that?
This is where I think they were looking more to assist with infrastructure as they go.
Okay.
If no further questions, I'll accept the motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve the 2025-2026 fiscal year budget for Gerald County Development Corporation.
Second.
All right, we have a motion on the floor in a second. There's no further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Unanimous. Okay. That's the last item on our regular agenda meeting. We're going to adjourn our regular agenda meeting at 7:33 p.m. And I want to open the workshop to discuss the data center. I'll turn that over to Ms. Spell.
Thank you, sir. Mayor and council, we do have members of the Savannah Prominent Group this evening to present to you information on the proposed data center. Staff has been working with them the past few months. They initially requested a residential development on this lot, and over the course of the past few months have requested meetings with staff to transition to this data center use. They do have more information to provide to hopefully answer some of the questions that we've been presented with this evening. So Dalton, if you and your group would do introductions and then start your portion.
Yeah, my name's Dalton Little, on the development team. We've got a couple guys up here that are across the companies that surround the development team. We've got Tom and Dutch, who are on our design and MEP team. We've got Chris Miller, Michael Bird, who are on our power infrastructure team. We've got Ken, that's on our civil team. This is a nucleus of further others that are on this team, and I'm going to leave it over to Dutch and the design team to kind of present and respond to some of the questions asked today, as well as fill you guys in with more information.
Thank you, Dalton. Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you for the opportunity to come up and visit with the fine citizens of Gerald. And I'm an architect. I lead our global practice for CI Mission Critical. Spent almost 35 years doing data centers. I've seen them range from 2,000 square feet to up to 1.5 million square feet. So it goes from all the gamuts. I've been a professional speaker and presenter to community center, community meetings, homeowner associations, planning and zoning commissions, council, et cetera, and every one of them have the same questions that I wrote down that you all have. So you nailed it very well. You've got all the concerns that everywhere that we go and talk about data centers, those are the questions that come up. A couple others, but it doesn't really pertain to you because we've actually shoehorned data centers between neighborhoods. And they were literally within 100 feet of the data center. So, hope you don't have that situation here. You are a few 100 yards away from data center. But let me start out very quickly. Just the first thing we like to address is what a data center is not. There's so many misconceptions out there. There's so much information online, and obviously you all have done your research and looked online. But we want to start out with saying what a data center is not. And I'm just going to briefly touch all your questions that I wrote down. And if I didn't get to all of them, we'll be glad to entertain those here as long as we need to be here to talk to you. So I'm going to touch very high level on all these, and if you want to get in depth later, we will be glad to do that. But just the question I heard was water use. You're going to use all my water. I don't have water to water my lawn now. What's going to happen when this big data center comes in? That's a myth, and it's not going to use any water. The water will be used by the young lady that came up with the air-cooled cooling system. It's a closed-loop system. The system will not use more than sinks and sanitary sewer and toilets. Other than the first, can you not hear me? I'm sorry. Is that better? Testing. Sarah. I'll be glad. I'll talk louder. So, it is a closed loop system. It's air-cooled chillers. That's the common term for it. It's not going to use all your water. There will be an initial fill, but there's also ways to mitigate that. There's buffer tanks that will be done on site where you can fill the tank slowly at night when the water's not being used, etc., and have a buffer tank. So there are solutions for that. But to answer your concern about water, it's not going to use all your water. It's not going to use all your power. The power system, the ERCOT and all the generation systems, Brazos Energy, Lower Colorado River Association, Austin Power, they are obligated to provide you all power. They cannot steal from you to give power to others, no more than they can steal from this gentleman to give to this young lady over here. So the power is the power, and they will not be able to build this unless the power is available and it will not be taken from the community. Noise, that's another concern. It's very legitimate. Most people point to the generators being the noise creator. Well, it's not the generators, it's air-cooled chillers. Generators run very infrequently, only when they're testing them to make sure that they're started up and ready to go, just like any hospital would on any generator or any emergency generator on any facility. But the creators of the noise is the cooling system. And it's usually a low reverberation noise. And what we do is we make sure we do noise studies and sound studies existing, and then what it will be like with all the equipment running, because all those cooling systems run 24/7 a day. One of the gentlemen pointed that out. That is true, but we will we won't try it. We will make it to, on the property line, what you will hear is somewhere between 50 and 65 decibels. Now, it's in the county, so there are no zoning ordinances that cover that decibel, but that's something that we can come to agreement, which is well seen, of what is acceptable decibel level. If it's 50, y'all, that's what we're going to try to achieve. That's 65. Now, to give you an idea, when your unit comes on outside your house, it's 55 degrees, or 55 decibels. So you hear that running. Obviously, it doesn't run 100% of the time, but that's about what 55 decibels sounds like. So there's a way to mitigate that. Ice storm, again, we work with communities and homeowner association to make sure that the facility will be appealing to the eye, and it can be set back, it can be articulated, it can have different colors, different materials, etc. But again, that's something that the design team, the engineering team, and the owner will work together with the community to come up with something that is appealing. Location near the high school. Again, there's nothing dangerous about a data center. And you talked about air pollution, and I'll address that in a minute. But there's nothing dangerous. It'll have a security fence. No kids cannot get on the site, hurt themselves. I just don't. The location being near a high school, I just don't see that as an issue. But you may have other issues, and we can discuss those. You are a fast-growing community. Fast-growing communities need power, water, sewer, infrastructure. Taxes that this facility will bring y'all will help upgrade all those facilities for all the new rooftops that are coming in and all the new businesses that will be coming in. So there's a benefit to the infrastructure. Air pollution, like I said, the generators are the only thing that pollute the air. They're run very infrequently, and when they do run continuously, it's only for emergency situations, which very seldom happens in a data center other than when we had the big freeze a few years ago. So they're tested every once in a while, but the EPA limits the amount of tons of pollutants that can be put in the air, and all those requirements will be met. Drainage control, the civil engineer on staff, he studied the drainage basin for the facility. There's ideas, and nothing's solved yet, but you've got ideas of how to solve the issue and make sure it doesn't affect downstream from the site. Height, again, height's a negotiated criteria. It's probably going to be somewhere between 45 and 55 feet high. And that's to the top of the screen that screens the equipment. So, there are ways to maybe make that 40 feet. But again, that's a negotiating factor that we can work with you all on. Green belts, the site plan we've got, I don't know, but we try to make sure there's green belts around the site for not only security reasons, but also to buffer it from the neighborhood. Jobs, average job, $75,000 a year for workers in the data center. That's a pretty good wage for a young kid coming out of high school or trade school or college. Plus the construction job. This is not a 2-year deal. This is, let's build that. 4 or 5 years of construction work that will be coming in. Vendors also, there will be people, HVAC equipment people, there will be electricians that will be constantly coming to the facility to help maintain. Transmission lines, I think there was an issue about transmission lines. You're going to have transmission lines, whether it's a data center, it's an industrial building, or whether it's a bunch of rooftops. They got to get power. Now, obviously, that is something that the transmission companies, the distribution companies will have to work with the county and the state to make sure they acquire the property and make sure that they can get to the facilities. Promises broken. I hear you. That is probably one of the highest things. Well, so-and-so down the road promised this and nothing came to fruition. That is the worst thing that can happen to any project because it gives communities the ammo to come back and say, what makes you different than everybody else? Well, what makes this team different than everybody else is we're here talking to you and talking and having a discussion. So we want to work with the community and be a part of the community, be a part of charities, and school systems, and churches, and everything else. But I think you'll find that Dalton and his team have that in the forefront of their mind. You have 90 homes. Again, we talked about some of that. Dark sky, there's ways to mitigate that. They have light fixtures. Obviously, like a football field, when you're a mile away, you're going to see a glow. That glow is not going to be the 100-foot candles you see on a football field. It's going to be a lower level. But to say
You're not gonna see it, but I'd be lying. I'd be a promise I'd break. But it's not gonna spill over. There are light fixtures to keep light from spilling over on neighbors' property. And I hope the fact that we're here talking to you right now will get over that steamrolling. Don't feel like you're being steamrolled. You want to feel like this team is part of your community and that we have an opportunity to work together to come up with a solution so that you're happy, the development team is happy, the community benefits financially in some of the infrastructure. So hopefully we can dispel that. But just for your education, I know I don't really need to because you all do your own research. But what is a data center? So basically, a data center is a building that maintains and processes information. Essentially, you all have laptops, I'm sure. It's a bunch of laptops in a cabinet, and there's thousands of those in that building. So that's pretty much what it does. They're located everywhere. They're located, like I said, we've squeezed data centers literally between two neighborhoods. And the interesting thing was, when we started the process, one neighborhood was a little higher cost per home than the one on the other side. But the interesting thing was that they were kind of against it, but we talked through it. The guys that were on the other side, they didn't have city sewer. They didn't have city water. They didn't have fiber access. So when this project went gone in, they had all those things, and they were just tickled to death. So we had one side that was just, yeah, we want it. The other side, no. But at the end of the day, we came together. We basically put a public way with a walking path, et cetera, connecting the city's two parks that benefited the neighborhood that was not liking it, but the other neighborhood then got the benefit of the sanitary sewer. And that's why they're good neighbors. You mentioned this has been zoned for multi-family, or for single-family homes. Well, several of our neighborhoods, like I said, sandwiched in between two neighborhoods, they went from single-family to industrial or data center use. The traffic was 10% of what those homes would generate. So the roads, you know, I don't know if you call that a benefit, but you know, having traffic, less traffic than what 400 or 500 homes would generate was a lot different for noise and just traffic congestion. Unsightly, I talked about that a little bit. Infrastructure, talked about electricity, gas, and power. It's not going to affect any of you on any of those resources that are needed. So, you know, Tom, you had the site. I think everybody knows where the site is. Obviously, you've done your research, and we've got the homes we talked about, the high school, and then the pit across the way. I think the idea is we're going to put the buildings over here. I think we had opportunity for maybe a small building here, but the planning's still going. And the fact is, we're here. We want to engage you guys, and we want to bring you. Come on, I think we're going to engage you, and we're going to make you want this status.
It's a snow job. Give it a rest, man. We're intelligent people. I've been around the world millions of times. Lots of times. I've lived all over the world. I've seen you guys come in and do this and try and bulldoze through a small community. I don't believe a thing you're saying. So don't treat me like I'm an idiot, because I'm not. I've been in this society. I live just up the road from that, and I really don't want to have to get up in the morning, upstairs, and look at a 50-foot tall piece of garbage. It's a factory. That's all it is. Don't try and say it's anything else. It's a box, it's a factory, it's industrial. Would you live next to it? I dare you to build your house within 50 feet of that and live there.
If I had an opportunity to have input of what that building's going to look like, I would give the person that wanted to build that building the benefit of the doubt, come in and say, work with me, I want to put a building there that I want to wake up to, and it won't offend me every morning.
So why did College Station say no?
We have the opportunity now to say what goes there, and it seems to me we definitely don't want that there. You could say, well, keep the glow down, but there's no glow there right now.
You're asking allowed me to elucidate both sides of this issue.
But there's no decibels at the fence line right now. There's no amount of money you can promise and then see tax abatements for later on that will entice people who have to live next to that monstrosity.
If I could elucidate a little bit on both sides of the aisle, this particularly pertains to city council and the people here. And I'm not going to go for or against, I'm going to go through some facts. We'll dive a little bit deeper on what you have mentioned. This data center is going to be smaller than the proposed data center, the Mason Data Center. Perhaps you're familiar with that project. $85 million project on 151 acres east of I-35, and it's proposed by prominent property groups, Savannah developers, and power infrastructure partners. The size of this data center will probably be, and this is if it's just based on our particular land, will be 200 megawatts. Okay, a similar facility. And if you approve it today, you're probably looking at a 5 to 10 year build out over the entire project. So the economics, the capital influx of a project like this is going to be $750 million this year. That's a good benefit, but you're not going to see that right away. Because there'll be tax abatements and things that they'll do over a course of years, which you guys well know. And maybe we're going to see benefits in the fact that the developers will provide infrastructure. They'll again make access to our roadways a little bit better. And as far as water is concerned, that's a big deal. If in fact council decides anything on this, they should understand that although they're speaking about the closed water system, it's still through evaporation loses. Let me see exactly where I put that. They lose a lot of money through the coolers, a lot of water through the coolers, and so job-wise. Initially, you may have 200 people, maybe 300 people that will be employed. That's a good thing. That's pretty temporary until the build-out stuff. End of the day, depending upon who's coming in, we don't know. Is it AWS? Is it XI? Is it who's coming to that data center? Important for us to know who that is. So if you could maybe explain a little bit more on that. Although it will provide money for schools, it's also going to increase population to that. It's going to bring only 40 at best jobs. And they're going to be, and some of these data centers actually run on 2 or 3 people running shifts, and it's all done remotely. It will reduce a lot of pollution relative to servers having to be replaced every 2 or 3 years. And the waste products that are associated with that. The process that you're going to use in that data center, I don't know the design yet. I've seen closed designs where they are just basically a box, and you don't really see a lot of light, not a lot of light emanation. But as you spoke about generators, that's obviously a problem. If I was council, and I was considering approval, I would say, hey, that's good and great. You're going to use terawatts. Let's see, the energy consumption, 200 megawatts. So somebody understands what that is. That's 150,000 homes, and a year they're using 2 or 3% of Williamson County's total electric, and that will be in terawatt hours. And so to put that in some kind of context, that's the amount of CO2 that 300,000 cars will put out. So developers can commit to the renewable energy rather than electric do that, which could be a benefit if council wants to go ahead with it. And then impact of converting that land will have environmental impacts, obviously. And the community concerns, the close proximity to the high school raises risks of noise, grid failure, and what have you. Just a couple more items. The direct revenue, property taxes of an $850 million facility in Gerald's 2.5 tax rate generates 10 to 15 million a year post abatement. Now what that means is that's what you'll see after 7 or 8 years, because you're gonna have to have abatements up front to allow the project to go on. There's a job multiplier. Again, I speak about that. The average guy that will work in a data center like that is going to make about $120,000 a year. It's going to bring in ancillary businesses that will support it, and that's a benefit to the community. But at the same time, Gerald's growing at such a large rate that it's going to have an impact to people and home prices based on some of the things I look at will raise about 15 to 20%. When Taylor brought in their data center, their property values went up 25%. I don't think we'll see 15% increase in our property values, but I just wanted to just say that, and depending upon what you're actually going to use it for, if it's for the large LLM, there is going to be an absolute crushing amount of data that is going to be done there. And it's going to require a lot more megawatt than anybody's thinking about right now. Other side of the coin is this is happening in the next 2 years, you're not going to recognize what's going on with AI or anything else. And the need for data centers is absolutely important. Leave it up to council to make the decision.
Very thoughtful.
Will there be any type of EMP shielding around the building or things that was one of, I think, one of the reasons why people talk about health concerns, not necessarily pollution per se, but effects from electromagnetic radiation.
The building itself will not emit magnetic, like a transmission line. The transmission line, that's where you get the EMF. So, other than the transmission line coming to the site, close to the site, the building itself won't be emitting any electromagnetic fields. Yes, sir.
I just have a couple of questions. First about the lighting, because a lot of folks are worried about the lighting. So we already have ordinances for lighting and what they can emit. How many homes were you wanting to put over there? Let's put this into perspective. How many? 700? So how much lumens, how much would the sky light up over there with 700 homes compared to this data center? Just a rough estimate for the community. Just to give you a better understanding of what light would be coming.
A standard neighborhood.
Just asking.
Trees and grass.
Just asking.
That's a little bit of a false equivalency. It doesn't matter if 700 homes or 8 massive data center buildings. Just because it's a choice between 750 homes and the associated families that come along with it. And hopefully some of the perks like parks and rec, versus how many data centers do you talk about? 5 to 8 I read somewhere?
So a lot of those misconceptions online, we've never once done an interview. So everything is in public forums, so it's for the public. So that's why people are posting stuff everywhere on Instagram, Facebook, Austin Business Journal, where have you. There's probably one thing that's been quoted about one person on this thing.
So we're talking about 4 to 5? 5
Is it 3 to 4?
3 to 4.
Yeah.
4 to 5 story buildings.
It can't be higher than 3 stories. That's it. For the city. It can't be higher than 3 stories. Fire won't let that be, right?
Office building is 14 to 15 foot floors. It could be a 3-story office building. 2 to 3-story office.
With HVAC systems constantly going 24/7, generating noise.
You first admit that.
Yeah.
That's a fact. You are correct. Yes, sir.
Could you touch on the generators for a second? Because we were told it was natural gas and not diesel. Is that the case or no?
Do we have enough gas to use gas generation?
Sure, yes, it would be natural gas, fire.
So it's extremely clean compared to diesel.
We have to meet all of the.
Yeah, I understand that, but compare, you're not gonna be smelling stinky diesel.
No, absolutely.
I'm just saying.
I've got just a couple of questions. I'm not going to. I have my say. But have you got any studies on data centers that back the propositions and everything you're saying, like white papers or anything like that? Are there any available?
To back all the things about.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about. This is new. AI is going faster than you and I. I mean, what it'd be like in 5 years. And that was the other question. How many years before this particular center becomes obsolete? Because at the rate it's going, everything, 5 years is about the maximum you can do anything with AI and technology these days, and it's, ooh.
So what's going to happen is, and again, nobody knows the future, but it changes every day. I mean, back when I started it, you figure a trend was going to last 10 to 12 years. Then when the computer really got into play, it was like 3 to 5 years. Then it was 3. Now it's almost monthly of what's going to happen. But to answer your question, these gentlemen have, what's our maximum megawatt? 200? 200 megawatts. They're selling 200 megawatts of power to a data center. As the density grows, as the AI and machine learning and all that grows, the data center literally, the compute part of it is going to get smaller because but you're only going to use 200 megawatts of data. So what you're going to happen is if you may have a room full of servers in a hall now, but in 10 years, 5 years from now, there may be 1/10 of those servers in the hall. So you'll have a big empty space, but you're still only using 200 megawatts because the density's gotten more. So a computer or a cabinet being 20 to 30 kW per cabinet, they're doing 500 to 600. They're talking about a megawatt cabinet. One cabinet, 84 inches tall, 2 foot by 4 foot, consuming 1 megawatt of power. That's just unbelievable. And these guys like NVIDIA, they're talking about not 50 years from now, they're talking 5 to 10 years from now.
Yeah.
So, but to kind of really answer your question, these gentlemen, this site has 200 megawatts right now. And that's what it's got, whether it becomes a 500 kW per cabinet or a 5 kW per cabinet, it's only going to be producing 500 K or 200 megawatts of power and cooling. So the cooling won't grow. It's equal. 200 megawatts of power, you got 200 BTUs for 1,000 cooling. Go with it.
One last question. One last question.
Yeah, one last question. Yeah.
One last question. It's the last one, but I'll take a lot. Why are you not locating in an industrial park or I-35 or the toll road? There are a whole lot of things being built down there with a lot of space away from residential areas. Because there are a lot of concerns about building these centres anywhere near residential areas.
So I can answer that. So the reason that we decided to pick this location was one, we usually get to do.
Louder?
Can I speak? Yeah, so the reason we originally was trying to get this data center, this location was obviously for a single family. That morphed over from talking with city council, talking to obviously people in the community didn't want to have 750 homes over there, so we went back to the drawing board. And where it's located, right next to a rock quarry, presented itself, okay, if we transition from residential, what's it going to be? Industrial park, data center has less traffic and provides, and actually, this data center will utilize less water and wastewater than the original plan was for the single family development.
Okay, thank you.
So that water is reusable, is it the water from listeners, is it no longer reusable? Like from what I've read, after water is used at a data center, it is no longer recyclable. You can't reuse that water, so it's just wasted water.
What goes through the sanitary sewer, and if the water is such that it will not meet the requirements of the city's sanitary sewer system, then it gets treated before it goes into that system.
So it's treatable water that
Yes.
comes from the data.
Yes, I mean, you have, and again, that's a good concern, and it's probably a concern that most homeowners or most citizens wouldn't think of, but yes, the sewer, the sanitary sewer processing, I don't know if it's city owned, county owned,
It's city owned.
it's city owned, they have criteria for what you can put into their sewer system. And the water that comes out of this facility will meet all that criteria.
Now, if you choose a recycled system, as you said, there's evaporation from the cooling. 0.5 to 1 million gallons a day will be evaporated.
No.
That's 100, correct me.
Okay, let me distill another myth.
Thank you.
And it's all semantics. So evaporative cooling is what you all see in a lot of the office buildings. There's a chiller, and then there's a big piece of equipment that water cascades down and goes from 85 or 90 degrees to the normal temperature, then circulates back. That's called evaporative cooling. And yes, that's where you use 1 million gallons a day for a facility like this. Then you have your air-cooled system. That's what we're talking about. Your home is a split system. It uses chemicals to create cool air on your system. It's not so dissimilar to what we're talking about. But it's a cooling unit and a chiller that goes to a fan. Goes to a fan, it's like in your house. So it's closed loop.
You
And
can
then,
mitigate perhaps 50% of the number that I see. That's about what.
then the third way that you're going to hear it is liquid cooling. Liquid cooling is what actually goes from the chiller unit into the cabinet. And it actually cools the chips or it cools the computer with a plate on the back. So that's a closed loop system as well. So there's evaporative cooling, air-cooled chillers, air-cooled, and then the liquid cooling. So, and the liquid cooling has nothing to do with the evaporative or the air-cooled chiller. It's a system that runs off of those two systems. So, I don't know if I answered your question, but it's more than, it's way more.
I'm very familiar with data centers.
Okay. All right.
No, just what you guys are new technology.
What's the liquid coolant? What is it? Argon or something else or what?
It's water.
Water.
Yeah, it's got treated chemicals in it, but it's water.
It's like radiator fluid.
Sorry?
It's think of like radiator fluid that has a water base to it.
But it's got chemicals.
Then the has been a glycol mixture.
No, it would not be glycol.
Okay. That's why, when you said like,
It's not freon, no, it's not like your home system or regular gas.
You mentioned earlier examples in other places where one neighborhood instead of neighborhoods, there was fiber kicking in, and now we have fiber. I'm saying that this is going to
I'm saying that your infrastructure probably will be upgraded to fiber. And probably your infrastructure for power will be upgraded.
is that something that could affect the rest of the surrounding area? Fiber, Professor?
Fiber expansion around Gerald, once we grab that dark fiber line down. He's saying how far can it expand through that?
Well, what it will do is it will give it the backbone, so that the neighborhoods that don't have fiber, the fiber providers will be more apt to go there.
It's nothing guaranteed for the rest of the community, it's just they're gonna have fiber to there. Is it coming from Lawrence by any chance?
Coming off 535.
You just gave that as an example for a benefit or possibly.
Yeah, it's factor. It could be a benefit if people get upgraded. And like I said, it brings the backbone from 35 over to this site, and then whatever goes off of that backbone is easier for the providers to get to the neighborhood versus them running the backbone over here and then expending that cost to get to other people. Yes, sir?
Yeah, real quick, have you guys had like an economic impact study or like feasibility study on what you assume this is going to do to, I mean, 5 years of construction, that's a lot of trucks. We already deal with a ton of trucks driving up and down the road. And so I want to know, like, what research, what studies, what have been done to kind of present to us, rather than these 2 sheets that are like, what is a data center?
Yeah. So we actually presented that at the last council meeting, which you were there to see that. So the economic study is about $7.2 million in revenue a year. Is what the economic study does. Does that answer your question?
I mean, somewhat, but I was more like, not only water, but the drainage, the infrastructure that has to be upgraded, everything that's going to change.
We're upgrading that.
Yeah, and is that all going to be on your dime, or is that going to fall on ours?
No, we're upgrading
Because many places have said that are built around data centers, people who live there, say that their electric bills go up after data center moves in. There was even a comic about it in the Wall Street Journal just like a couple of weeks ago. So that is something that we're all very concerned about, and it's something that has historically happened. And the other thing I have to say is that although there's regulations in place that might protect us now, what we know is regulations can change. They do all the time. And they're even like right now, people are talking about wanting regulations to change for data centers against people like us. And so even if regulations right now protect us, I do not believe that those regulations may always be there to protect us.
And the one thing, so I lived in Ashburn, Virginia, and I assume you guys know where that is. It's called Data Center Alley. It's called it for a reason. They built 177 data centers there in the last 10 years, right? That's exactly what's going to happen here, right? Because once you find all this land, and the infrastructure's there, and the fiber's there, and the power's there, the first one comes, and the second one comes, and the next thing you know, it's like the Wild West out here. Who can buy up the farmland fastest? Who can start building these data centers? And next, it just becomes a concrete jungle of all these roads that brought in construction vehicles, and then all these big square buildings. I moved down here 5 years ago to get away from exactly that. The light, the noise, everything it brings, it's disgusting. It looks like the sun's coming up 24/7. There's a constant hum, and especially out here where it's peaceful, you don't hear much. All you hear is that hum constantly. I've lived it. I've done that. No, I moved 1,200 miles away to get away from it. The last thing I want to do is have it built half a mile from my house. I've dealt with people like you guys. I've dealt with all the promises. Shit. You're one hell of a salesman. You've been doing it 45 years. You came up with objection handling, storytelling, relaxed, smiling. We're all one community. Till that data center's built, we'll never see your face again. So you come back and you want to build another one. This is my home. Would you build your house on that same property you want to build that data center and promise to live there 200 days out of the year? Because I doubt you would. Would you? Do you want to promise me that if my land starts to devalue, I can come to you and get that money?
If I had the opportunity.
Why do you not want to promise and say, yeah, I will do that?
So if you're done responding, you have to ask the question, keep it kind of civil. You ask the question, and you're done responding now.
To answer your question, I think I answered it earlier. If I had the input that your guys are gonna have on how this development is done, then, yeah.
We don't
want that. You need to listen. We pay the taxes, we brought you in. And if you can't do something about this and see you being taken for a ride, go and visit Oregon, Virginia, places like that. They'll tell you what happened. They got sucked in, and 2 years later they said it's the worst thing we ever did. It's all there for you. Do your research. Do your homework. This is wrong.
Gentlemen, I have a question for y'all. I'm showing brought up the social media posting y'all put out where it meant like get approved, y'all.
Yes, sir.
So that, I'm the one that's answering the question. And one of the things in there, was like power generation. Where in social media, it's not bringing in power, you're gonna be generating power. They're bragging about the generator. So how do you get your power? Are we gonna get, because don't bring in the gas line. That doesn't those generators run it, but they're strictly backup. It's a whole lot cheaper, easier to have big diesel generators that only run 10 minutes. So are we generating power over there 24/7 on generators?
There will be no diesel generation on
That's my
site.
question. The question is, are we going to generate power 24/7 on the generator?
Yeah, the initial part of the power will be on-site natural gas generation, and then as the grid comes on, and then the facility will revert to where the natural gas generation becomes the backup to the grid.
What's the projection timeframe for that transition?
Between 2 and 3 years during the construction phase.
What's the best left generators?
I'm happy to share that. I don't know off the top of my head.
I assume it wouldn't be more than 50 or 65 that you.
No, whether it's GE or Siemens, I mean, all of the sound attenuation and all of the technology on that has to meet, certain criteria. And so, yeah, these are all things that are literally power plants that you drive by and you don't even notice they're there.
I question if we have backup generators anymore.
Diesel generators are absolutely absolutely.
Diesel generator in a container is typically 75 dB to 25 feet away from the container. But if you're in the container.
I have a question. So you said that there are the community, where was that community located? So I can look it up and verify what you say is true.
Where is that community located?
Yes.
Glen Heights, Texas.
Glen Heights, Texas.
And they passed, it was a rezoning case, and they passed unanimously.
So you've done multiple sites, you're the expert, right? That's why they hired you. So my concern is, I've done some architecture, I've done all kinds of background in this also, is pretty much, it kind of worries me that you guys are new. So do you guys have a site we can go tour? So say I want to see exactly what you guys are building. You guys said it's going to be great. What is an example of work that you've done that I can drive out there and visit and see if what you're saying is true? Is there a location that I can visit? Because I don't buy a car unless I test drive it. So I mean, that's just, I'm just looking at logical. Because I know other people brought up whether it was Google or someone else, and I can actually go see what you guys are saying is true. I feel better knowing that it's not a football field. So is there an example of any of your work or anything you've done that's local or?
Not local.
Not local?
We've done some pretty good looking ones throughout the state. A lot of them up in Virginia, Northern Virginia.
We can provide you with a list of the data centers locally, but typically that's going to be reserved for the customer to grant access, the end user. And then you're typically not going to be able to get it.
If you just Google data center Texas or data center.
Well, I got you, but I mean, I'm looking for your product or work. I would like to know exactly what we're getting into if we're going to approve this. Because I mean, like the community said, like there's a health condition later, they're going to look at us. I mean, that's what we're voted in to represent them. So like I said, I'm trying to do my due diligence. Like I would like to have something physically instead of, because I mean, like they said, you can promise everything, well, and then it doesn't come through. So that was my personal thing, was like, is there, I could go to that data center down there, but you guys can build it.
Look, what you're gonna get, don't stop me by spending your money, but what you're gonna get is a product that you all had input in. I can show you all kinds of renderings and photographs of the data center. It's not gonna be what you're gonna get. What you're gonna get is, as we develop concepts, you're gonna come in and say, I don't like that. Could you do a little more of this? I don't like that color. Could you use more stone on it, or Austin stone, or something a little more glass, make it look more like an office building, make it look more like a church, it's gonna be your facility, because you're gonna approve it. And you're gonna have input to do that.
When you say
I think that, I think considerations ought to be this, okay, you ought to consider the fact that, who's coming in. I think you need to know. You need to know if it's XAI, you need to know if it's Microsoft, you need to know if it's AWS, you need to know these things. Who is gonna employ that? Are they going to be using blockchain, making LLMs, which is gonna intensify everything? Are they gonna deal in crypto? I mean, answer some of those questions so we might know what's in that data set. What's going on?
I don't want to be a devil's advocate, but why do you think what's in there?
Oh, you guys are kidding. I might know. That's not.
It's inside the building.
Why do I care? I care because whether it be Elon whether it be Microsoft, whether it be X.
Okay,
You've
so
got
you don't
all these
really care
different-
about what's in the building
I
itself.
think that
You only
it's
care who
important
owns what's
for
going
the
in there.
decision that council is to make who's coming.
Well, I mean,
I don't think that's a good ground.
Jeff, you know this process, we're not there yet.
I appreciate y'all already have some explanation, sound, noise, talk about building walls, landscaping. That's great. But the easiest way to mitigate the problem is not to have the problem there in the first place. So I appreciate that you want to build live oak, cover up everything. You won't see, or it'll be pretty as you drive by. It'd be better if it wasn't there at all. We won't hear it if it's not there. You won't see the glow at night if it's not there.
there's gonna be most likely I'll probably find you another 100 people that don't wanna see 750 houses over there.
All right, at this time, I'm gonna call up the individuals who submitted cards before the meeting, allow them a chance to speak, and then those of you who have not spoken, I've seen some hands raised in the back, I'm gonna give you all an opportunity, except the people right here up front. So, Houston Rodigan?
Yeah, I think I've said my piece, but I will say this, you said I don't buy a car unless I drive it. I've lived it. He literally just said, oh, I built data centers in Virginia. I drove past them every day. I dealt with the noise. I dealt with the light. I moved down here to a small town in Texas. I didn't go to Austin. I didn't go to Dallas. I came to Gerald, Texas. 5 years ago, right when that winter freeze hit. Not 2 years ago. It was 5 years ago. I've lived here since. I put down roots here. I didn't do it because I wanted to watch the data centers come and everything, all this industrialization that Virginia had. I wanted it because I wanted a small town life of a community that was focused on each other and build it that way. I moved away from you guys for a reason. I hate that I have to spend time here tonight to fight this. And I gotta be honest with you, I got a daughter that's 2 years old. I'm sure you guys all have kids or grandkids. Would you be proud to drive through a town and be like, that building right there, I put that one up? I don't think you would. I don't think in 10 years, the 6 of you sitting on this council will be proud that that's what you let come into Gerald. Because it won't be the last one. I can guarantee it. I bet every dollar I have. It won't be the last one. You're opening the door.
Thank you. Amanda Williams?
With all due respect, I totally understand your history and where I come from and what's in place. Since I've moved to Gerald, I feel like I've never been so involved in city council because I feel like I'm always batting off some sort of developer who, it feels predatory. It feels predatory. Gerald is a lovely community, and I don't know why we keep attracting predatory developers who offer very little and take so much. And you're going to give us 50 jobs? 50 jobs in the end? People want to work and live in their community. And Walmart will give us more than what this will contribute. And I just think that fact alone should make us pause. Should make us pause. I understand it's going to throw dollar bills. I come from a community that is rich in oil, and I can tell you, dollar bills in your eyes are just another level of poverty. I can tell you that for a fact. Gerald is a lovely community. It has great citizens. Albeit, most of them are old sore heads just like me, but they want a safe community. They have a safe community. 750 homes, maybe that's more traffic, but that's families, that's schools, that's sports, those are churches, it's a community, it's not a factory that offers me nothing but 50 jobs. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, William Thompson? Everybody hear me?
Go ahead, okay.
Council. I'm voicing my opposition to this project. First, I'd just like to say I've heard a lot of, oh, you're going to have that, and there's ways to mitigate it. I didn't hear any actual of the ways to mitigate it. I live across the street from where this is planned, and my daughter goes to school in the high school next to this. And this is very high stakes for me. As we've heard before, this is barely going to add 40 to 50 jobs in the end. But the construction and traffic will be an absolute nightmare for us to deal with. We've heard about tax abatements. They haven't said whether or not they're going to take those, but they can take tax abatements. They can seek them under Jetty. We should consider that. Another major concern of mine and my fellow neighbors is the property value with a project like this being approved. And I've heard a lot of engineering jargon and stuff. I am an engineer. I work for ERCOT, and I'm not speaking on behalf of ERCOT, but I can tell you that this project has a very high likelihood of requiring transmission level upgrades. And I can tell you right now that we, the citizens, are going to be the ones that are going to be paying for those transmission upgrades. And that's at a very least. He's mentioned that we could have power lines, and he said, oh, that's okay. Of course, the transmission system is going to continue to get upgraded, but we have the right to choose where those power lines go. I don't want 138 kilovolt power lines going across my yard. I don't want a high power substation going in right next to the high school. Not to mention, they've said that, oh, these generators are only going to run every so often when we test them. That's a falsehood. A lot of these places, and I know because I have experience with this, will actually run their generators at times when the electricity prices are really high. So we're going to eat those costs. And another quick point about health concerns, that the community and the high school are already As you can see, I'm very upset about this. Our community and the high school are already in close proximity to a limestone quarry. The air quality sucks here. If we add this, we're going to make it worse. At a minimum, they might have some mitigations and stuff, but the risk is still there. The risk is still there. We have the cooling towers. I've read things about possible Legionella. These are things we need to address. And lastly, I want you to look into cases where developers have lied about or not made good on their promises. One such case is actually Google. They put a data center in Dallas, Oregon, which flat out lied about their water usage. You can Google it. Funny. So yeah, I urge you all to strongly consider everything. Don't just listen to the sales pitch. Consider everything and vote no on this. Thank you.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak who hasn't spoken yet?
I realize one individual's family is meaningless in terms of data center development or any large industrial development. So I'm just going to tell you what we have and what we're dealing with in our household and what the solution has to be. My wife has a 1 in a million brain syndrome. It's called FARS syndrome. F-A-H-R-S, familial primary brain calcification is another term. The symptoms are Parkinsonian tremors, anxiety, insomnia, depression. In some sufferers, it leads to psychosis, dementia, and death. She cannot even take an increase of 50 decibels. She can't. We've already talked to a realtor. If we move, we're going to lose 40 years of savings. We moved here to be close to our son, daughter-in-law, and the 4 grandkids. That's gone. It's as good as gone. And if we have to move, we're moving out of state. Because there's no place in Texas that will be immune from this type of development. We're going to get a fraction of what we paid for the house. All that American dream stuff will evaporate faster than your water coolers will. I have a nephew who has his PhD in computer science. I can't tell you where he works, but he does work for the Navy,
we don't know what he does because we don't have a top security clearance. I gave him the facts that you presented publicly, and he thought it was a crazy idea to put it next to a high school. He would never want to live near a data center. He knows what the GPUs are, input, output, throughput, the power requirements. His brother works for Mississippi Power. And as my neighbor said, yeah, the demands are tremendous. The idea that we're going to have to deal with power generation until you can get the high power lines in, and the power generation is natural gas on site. Yeah, I mean, I know we're meaningless, you guys. I realize that. I know you don't care, and that's fine. But the reality is, we're taking an old retired couple, we're gonna have to leave our home and go somewhere else away from the grandkids because of this development. Why does it have to be right there? Is irrelevant that there would be homes there otherwise. That can be dealt with easier as far as the impacts. Roads can be widened. My wife's health is a non-negotiable event. You understand that, gentlemen?
Hey, I just like to say, I would just like to say, thanks for being here. Thanks for representing. Is it, for council, it's inevitable that these things will grow.
He's not done speaking, sir. Please finish.
He was done.
Okay.
You're not interrupting
Thank
me.
you.
Don't take me, you're interrupting him,
Okay.
not me. So why are you letting him finish?
Yeah, okay, go ahead. Yeah.
I think that my wife and I are finished in more ways than one. Economically, geographically, our health. There are prices to be paid by individuals that cannot be factored into your spreadsheets or your plans. I know that this information is going to sway you or deter you or move things. I simply want to make you aware of the fact that you can smile all you want to. You can make all the promises that you think you need to convince people that you're the good guys. But ultimately, there is a price that people are going to have to personally pay. And that's my wife and I paying that price. And it's going to destroy us financially.
And I would just like to thank you, gentlemen, for being here and explaining what you're explaining. And I think the community speaks, its question. But I again tell council, as I've told them many times before, there's a tsunami coming. And it's going to change everything. Gerald is either going to choose to be part of it, or it's not going to be part of it. And I think you can hear from the community, perhaps we don't want to be part of it.
So I have something to say,
Yes.
Go ahead, ladies and gentlemen.
I have a point that I kind of touched on a little bit, and you danced around it a little bit. But we were talking about the electricity and the grid, and you said, oh, nobody's going to take your electricity. Nobody is saying that their electricity is going to be taken, but, and this little snippet here that I was reading explains it quite well, better than I could, but the massive energy requirements of data centers constrain the existing power grid, leading to increased utility prices that are passed on to residents and smaller businesses through higher rates. We would rather not have that. And then also infrastructure costs. New data centers often require upgrades to power plants, transmission lines, and other infrastructure to meet increased demand. Residents and small businesses can end up bearing the cost of these expensive upgrades if developers are not required to pay for them. My point in discussing the wind power generation is that there are ways to do this responsibly, perhaps not so close to everybody where people live and work, but nearby but not so close, but also to insist that if this has to happen, the cost for the infrastructure, for the electricity and the power grid must be borne by the developers, by the builders, and I'm not convinced that tax abatement is going to come out to benefit Gerald if that's allowed. I think that if this really has to be put right there, it needs to be very much constrained in water use, and it needs to be absolutely constrained in electricity and grid improvements. And I really believe that if this is such a great project, they can certainly handle that themselves and not the people of Gerald. And that was the point I was hoping to make. I didn't make it very well when I was up at this podium.
Well, to answer your, short answer to your question is that the power companies do require the developers to pay for the upgrades. It's amortized over the life of their contract with the power company, but they do require the developers.
That's right, so all the infrastructure that the gentleman who worked at ERCOT was talking about, the infrastructure that's gonna go in, ordinarily, that does not get paid for by the builder of the data center. Ordinarily, that gets paid for by the entire community of electric users in the increased rates, and we would rather not have that. We would rather it be paid for by the builder.
I think you'll find that's not the case, that we would have to bring some information back to you to convince you, I'm sure.
Yeah, I put a whole bunch of notes on the back of my car, so, yeah.
Bill Busick. My background is 35 years in finance and technology. Things are changing so fast. And obviously you guys did an ROI in a study that said this data center is going to give us more revenue, more bang for our buck as a corporation than building 750 or however many homes, and we're not. Right? Because once those homes are built, you got to make your money. Council, you guys, for all the people who are coming in here now and looking to develop this area, look what started in Austin and moved north on I-35. Look at Round Rock. We've lived down here for 20 years in Texas. We recently moved down here to Carroll 4 years ago. We left that area to come out here because I wanted to see farms and cows and things when I drove down my county roads. This stuff is coming. Look at Georgetown. Maybe you guys should look at Georgetown. Look at what the airport's got a great big industrial area there with a bunch of land with for sale signs on it. Power grid's over there. You're not going to be disturbing any residential homes. Go 15 minutes down the road. I don't know what you guys are locked into with this land. The decision went from homes to we're going to convert this over to industrial. But obviously, people moved here for what we've got now. And it can be developed properly. Set a zone out in the middle of nowhere for industrial development that isn't going to be bothering people with this kind of stuff. We got so much land out here. And I understand what's going on north up here where this hunting tract that's looking to get developed this side of the trail. Yeah. How many homes are going to be going up there and you pulling down the water supply and everything else that's going on? There needs to be a long-term plan. Then let's just carve out this chunk of land over here next to the high school because these guys want it. A lot of people aren't here because they don't even know this is coming. My wife follows what goes on in this city, and she keeps me informed, and that's why I sort of show up at these meetings. But guys, you got to understand what we have here, and don't be so quick to give it away. Don't be so quick. And I mean, I don't want to comment about what Walmart's going to do and not improve that one road all the way down to the next county roads. They got the money. You guys stand up for what you know is right for this community.
All right, so I personally experienced, there is favoritism from what you're saying on electricity because when we did have the freeze, I have a commercial property, zone commercial, I pay more money for electricity. So during the rolling blackouts, I had constant electricity, which is why I opened up my school for heating, water, we had everything, and I let the residents take showers. But I did see that there is favoritism for commercial properties, I'm investing money, so yes, electric company will probably, if you guys say, hey, the gas lines or something has happened, they're gonna play favoritism, and then I'm a resident also, so yes, my house did the rolling blackout, so that is a big concern on our part too, is, like I said, luckily I had a commercial property, so I got to see the difference. Commercial, they put them first, and never had any electricity, so that's just proof, like 100% proof. But yes, my residential property, we didn't have electricity, so that is a huge concern. I would like to hear that you guys, in a crisis, that you guys can guarantee that you're not going to be on the grid because there's an issue, and at that time, we'll just lose money for the benefit of the city. Because that was crazy, there was people that died. So that is a huge concern of mine personally, is your facility going to be the primary. That's one of the big things. What I'm hearing is there's a lot of concern. Same thing with the Walmart. And as a developer, I expect you guys to address all these concerns. If you can address them to your best, I would hope you wouldn't lie to us. I mean, if you guys are going to come and you want our approval, I mean, we have to feel good about it too. So you've heard all the questions. I would like all the answers, come up with some, right now, I'm not saying it's no, but I mean, I just have a lot more questions, and I'm going to do a lot more research on my own. But if you guys can put together something better, you've already observed, what you can tell them, what you can't tell them. But if you can, I guess people feel better. Yeah, you have all the questions out of the community. They care enough that they came out here to address y'all. We appreciate it, but now you kind of have a palette to address it better. Because if not, I mean, it might just be them now, but they're going to go out and talk to everybody. So next time you have a meeting, it might be the 200-300 that you didn't want here. So, but I would like an intelligent response to kind of, let them know the world's not falling apart. If you can't do that, if you can't, I mean, I guess you pretty much know what the outcome is going to be.
The onus is on us to answer your question.
May I address the favoritism?
Yes.
So anybody that may have been following some of the legislation the past couple of years, there's something that's come out called basically Senate Bill 6 or SB 6. And what this is trying to do is this is a reaction to the Uri storm where there was an interruption of services. Sometimes it was a physical interruption. A tree takes down a line. And so it's a matter of redundancy and beefing up the grid, not just from a generation standpoint, but also transmission and distribution, the amount of ways that we can route power from the sources to certain homes. The other thing that's come from that at SB 6 is whether you're a generation resource or whether you're just generating power on site, you no longer get to be on an island. You are going to participate in what's called forced curtailments. And so based off of grid sensitivities, where load and demand, exceed each other, and these scarcity events come, all businesses or all generation resources are going to be part of some type of curtailment program. So those people that do have generation would no longer be pulling power off the grid and would either move to on-site generation or at a certain scarcity level be forced to put generation back on the grid to actually, again, increase load. The TDSPs have a huge share of responsibility to actually serve residential. So your C&I or commercial and industrial customers actually fall below that. So what this SB 6 is actually trying to force out is put the incentives out there as well as the regulations so that load generating resources come back to the grid in times of scarcity.
That's a good point.
Somebody made a point. In the case of a event like a black start, where the grid goes down, we were like 30 seconds away from the Coles Bridge shutdown, which was 5 years ago. So say that happens here, I think it's called a black start. Everything goes down, and it's going to take weeks to months for power to come back up. So now you're saying I'm going to be living in the dark, but then I'm going to have a data center with your generators on
That generation goes back into the grid. It's not for commercial or industrial use.
But what it is, that's happening every day.
As a matter of fact, y'all get paid to turn the electricity off, right?
They're trying to
You're going to get paid to turn the electricity off in an emergency time.
The owners of the generators or the owners of the contracts can participate in different programs. Again,
Because that's what I've read.
Yeah, you have to incentivize somebody to have a generator here not running, right? So that is what the legislation is trying to do, is bring what we call, kind of real start generation back Because when the wind doesn't blow and the sun doesn't shine, then, I mean, we still have to have base load power, or what we call callable resources. And so we're trying to bring these assets and these generation assets back to proper to the grid in times of scarcity.
So the program you talked about was people turning on their generators because the power bill is going up. It's kind of almost the opposite, because Encore, there's a program for data centers, and it's been going on for 35 years, where Encore will call the data center and say, we're getting close to the peak, would you please turn on your generator? And take that load off of the grid, so the grid can service hospitals, schools, and residences. So that's what you're talking about. If they're gonna do that, if they're gonna put it on steroids. They're gonna have multiple data centers to be able to do that, not just selected program, people on that program. So that's kind of what he's talking about.
That's the intent of the legislation.
So, would you participate in being a large flexible load? Would they participate in being a large flexible load?
Yes.
Not just the generation, but would you curtail your load in tight conditions?
Yes, whether it's through demand response or curtailment.
So that would be like in writing somewhere, or? Because I know you.
It's gonna be a
currently,
legislation.
it's also
Right.
not
It's not
participating.
law.
Yeah, it's got to be a law.
But it's not current.
Correct.
So, we're talking about ifs.
So one other question, as far as the energy, she said, windmills, is there any plan for solar or any other, or is it just gas? I mean, what are your plans as far as electricity? I'm curious.
No, I mean, yeah, there's not sufficient land for 30 megawatt turbines or 3 megawatt wind farms or anything like that. Yeah.
There was just the one wind turbine though in Woodstock,
No,
Illinois.
that's what I'm saying. I just want to make sure,
Just one, not a whole farm, but just one.
Because
And
it's just
it's
an idea
running the
that-
entire, that entire business, that entire thing. So out there, alongside the high school, back up against those quarries, I think there's probably room for a few wind turbines up there that would be able to provide energy directly to this project and not put such a load on the electric grid out here, which is a new, and I put that on the back of my notes too.
Well, that's why I asked if they had plans, they don't
Yeah.
plan on doing that or solar.
I think it would be good to require them to.
Gentlemen, all I'd say is thank you for coming out here, as you got very emotional, passionate, and, you're trying to convince these folks here to do something about it all. Y'all live next to it. So we appreciate their side of it. I thank y'all for coming out. It's a tough decision. And we see both sides. We know you want to make money. They all live here. So it's fair.
I got a question. Have y'all kind of for the quarry glass that shape the buildings over here on this side and straight winds that come through? Have y'all kind of for the quarry glass that shape the buildings on this side and the straight winds that come through? A couple of years ago, there was a tornado that hit literally across the street.
This will be hardened facilities so that F4 or S3
Answered earlier, but what is the projected taxes that the city would be able to collect for this project?
Yeah, I mean, high level, until we get down in the weeds, but high level, that's $7.2 million.
That the city would get on a yearly basis?
Yeah.
What are the based off?
I can grab you, so we sent, Yvonne, you have that package that we sent you guys. I don't know if you circulated it around, we presented it to P&Z a couple weeks ago, but that package breaks the good. I don't know off the top of my head.
Mr. Mayor, what do you think are the next steps that you would like to see this being provided to the community and to the council? What would the community like to
I guess, at least I know for us on the council, this has been we didn't really know much about the data center at all before it went in front of P&Z, and as soon as it went in front of P&Z, we got bombarded with questions, and none of us really had an opportunity to sit down, either ask y'all any questions or talk to y'all. So yeah, I appreciate y'all being here. I think this is a hard decision, would be a hard decision for everybody on the council. So I'm sure people on the council are going to have questions, further questions. People in the community, if y'all have further questions, reach out to us, and then just be there and be able to respond to any questions we have. And if we need to have another workshop meeting or something, I think we're all open to having it. I see both sides of it. I see, the resident side of it, not wanting a data center, right across from them. But we are a growing city. Right now, we have 10 to 15,000 houses on our books that we couldn't stop if we wanted to. That are going to come in over the next 5 to 10 years. The houses are coming, but we do need businesses to come in, because if we ever want to, as a council, want to give something back to the community, redoing roads, building parks, community center, pools, all that stuff is paid for not by property taxes. Property taxes fund the police department, fund city staff. It's really ad valorem tax, sales tax, and a business like y'all would be property tax, but this thing is classified as something else. It's not just property, it's business, personal property. The value of the equipment inside the building, which you remove, that kind of classified as a different tax. Anyway, if the 7.2 million number is correct, that would double our city budget.
It was 7.2.
It would double our city budget. So we have to take into account that aspect of it, is putting $7.2 million back into the city, into other residents throughout the city. And so yeah, it's going to be a hard decision. Nothing has been decided by the council about this project or any other project. Even if people have said it online that things are coming in no matter what, it's got to come in front of us before we decide anything. So I just want all of y'all to know that nothing's been decided, and we do value all of y'all's input. And I like seeing community engagement, because most of the times we don't have it at our council meeting. So I do like hearing from everybody. And I see some hands up, so.
Yeah, I just want to ask one more question, just like a general question. It's like, what made you decide right there? Like, if you drive down 35, there's so much farmland.
We loved that land for a while. The city didn't want 750 homes, so we pivoted.
Gotcha.
Go ahead.
The thing that frustrates me and all of this is that when we moved here, we didn't realize that there was a city of Gerald and Sonterra on the other side. And so everything that you're talking about, the taxes and all that, it's not going to help a lot of the people that are over there between the Walmart and the data center coming in, but it's going to affect everybody in the area. I'm really frustrated that it's really literally, I-35 comes through and we've got two sides here.
Has anything else been negotiated with the developers besides having them build on the thing, like you said earlier, having like a recreation center or something? Or better be built? I can't wait, I don't know what's going on. Can you hear me?
Sorry, say that again?
Has anything else been negotiated with the developers besides just putting their spot over there? Like,
No.
putting a park?
We haven't even gotten to the negotiation part of
Okay.
any of it. This is our first conversation, really, like, to find out information. Yeah.
had a question about the city did not want 750 homes. Was that a sentiment from city council or was that a community response? Community response?
It's a mixture of both.
Okay. And just a clarifying question, with a proposed $7.5 million property tax value being contributed to the city's pockets, as operation wise, is that really doubling the existing budget or the existing revenue? Yes. Property tax, or is that entirely?
Our current year's budget is between $6 and $7 million that we're
Revenue,
spending
or
on
is that revenue or expenses?
expenses.
And as the mayor, how do you see that $7.5 million being put to use in the city of Gerald? You probably know the infrastructure.
I mean, yeah, I've grown up here my whole life, so you can drive downtown Gerald, roads need to be fixed. The downtown area itself could be redeveloped. People would love a pool, that's what I always hear, city pool, city community center. That money would be directly, we wouldn't be able to use it on infrastructure for another development that wants to come in. That's for our operating budget, that goes to a specific part of our budget that is supposed to be used to fund city services, city staff, police officers, stuff like that, so.
This will be my last question, I think, that, assuming that revenue comes in next year, I know we have a 5-year build out, but would then you see the possibility of reducing tax rate?
I would love to reduce the property taxes down to zero.
Right. And that would be an offset. Is that something that might be entertained?
Certainly. I mean, we have the same tax rate this year, but last year we reduced it. Yeah, I think it was 2 cents or something. So, yeah, I'm all about reducing property taxes on the people who live here.
I don't want you to think you get 7 million in the beginning, because that's not how that works. Okay, so just to say yay, council, and then we get to 7 million, doesn't work that way. So we see a very small portion of that, so we'll build up some trees.
Yes.
I'm just a little confused because earlier y'all said that it was designated originally for 750 homes, but that they resubmitted to go ahead and have it changed to the data center. But he just said the city didn't want the homes. So that's a contradiction already that I'm hearing.
Let's not go look at the February P and Z meeting, it's online.
Yeah, it was a public hearing and a bunch of people came and didn't want it, and P&Z wasn't happy with 30-foot wide lots. It was
They want to build
dense
houses like
homes.
right over here.
Okay.
Do you want houses? Do you want houses like that over here? Over here?
For houses there, was it close to a data center?
I don't know, but we knew that the city didn't want.
Since I live across the street from it, I wouldn't.
But there's other folks in the community that.
The other folks that want to.
Right.
Because everybody that lives in our neighborhood does not want a data center across the street.
I understand that. I definitely understand that.
I think I mentioned as far as they talk about jobs or construction jobs or whatever, are those going to be local people working on construction? Or are these going to be people from far away, San Antonio?
We utilize a lot of contractors here in Austin. We all live in Austin. We use Joe Green Construction. It's actually most of this land here in Gerald.
Well, Austin really, Gerald residents don't. You know, will Gerald residents benefit from construction jobs?
Yeah, I just have one more thing. Is there any, a lot of the parents are gonna be asking that question, is there anything that is proven that there's any type of health risk having a data center right next to the school? Like, is there anything that a resident's gonna bring saying that it causes cancer, he's concerned, why it might die? Is there anything that we're gonna be able to find and prove?
If you do, let someone else.
When you're not aware of anything.
No.
Thank you, Tina.
Is there anybody else that would like to ask a question?
You know, I see a lot of people that it seems like, you know, oh, 7.5 million, 7.5 million, we're gonna double our budget, this is so great, but like, really think about the potential lives that you're going to impact with that, you know, fruit dangling in front of your head, because it's going to impact at least, like you said, 90 families and potentially 1,000 students. I personally, I don't care if it was 20 million, I still don't want it. I don't care if they offered us free tacos every day, I don't want it.
Exactly.
One last one, and maybe it's not equivalent to the data center, but you guys look into Bitcoin mining facilities up around Glen Rose and Granbury area, and all the health people are impacted up there from the noise pollution, from the EMF radiation, from what they've tried to do to, you know, it's 24/7 that this stuff goes on. It's not like you can shut your window, go to sleep at night and not hear it. It's there constantly. And it's going to be there constantly with this as well. And if anything, if they start running the generator, it's going to be loud. And say the equivalent of 55 hertz of noise from my neighbor's air conditioning unit. These guys don't have air conditioning. They're having a mega structure that's going to have a whole bunch of these things all humming at 55. And the way that that's going to radiate is going to be a lot less than my neighbor's air conditioner that's, you know, 20 feet from my bedroom window. That goes on and off, on and off. This never goes off. And I mean, my background is technology. I'm all for technology if it's done the proper way and without the impact on people who physically moved here for what this city and community already was. And shaping it into something new. Man, we got I-35. Nobody's building a house on I-35, right? That land is going to be turning into something industrial. And, you know, your economic board and everything else, I'm sure you guys have a long-term plan for how you want to see this community develop. I don't think it involves 150 acres, you know, sitting next to a high school as being a great idea for where you locate a data center. There's got to be other places, even here in Jarrow, where transmission lines already exist that can be tapped into without having to go and impact anybody who lives up in that district.
Is the location in question currently inside the city limits?
So the second building got there.
Is there a plan for you to proceed accordingly?
With the annexation.
If you're not annexed into the city, allowing us to have some control, is your plan to proceed in the ETJ?
We have to reconsider and reevaluate that, but right now we want to.
What would make you reevaluate?
Well, just, I mean, obviously the economic side of being able to, we met with Commissioner Covey and she was very adamant about the growth of Gerald. And we met with her about this being in the county, and that was one of the reasons that we came to work with you on for the last 6 months about this, because Commissioner Covey really advocated for this to be a part of
Is
this.
it just because your investment like in infrastructure and?
In the infrastructure, the tax revenue, so on, and the list goes on.
I mean, I guess the tax revenue at that point would go to the county, not the city, correct?
Correct.
So I guess on the citizens, I want you to understand that if this is a project that proceeds in the county, we have no control.
The annexation would at least allow us some control. I want you to be very aware of that. This is a very tough decision put before us. And it's difficult to say how we proceed from here. But I think it's important that you have the knowledge that this is not currently in our city limits.
Is there a CCM over on the
Yes.
water use of the line?
There's CCM. Covenants.
Certificate of convenience.
Effectively, we're allowed to have it in the water, even if you can't count it.
But they would have to get approval for the road call.
Is there a application that's been submitted? Is there a annexation? My understanding this was in the city limits, I guess it's not. And so there,
We have an application to annex, zone, I mean, it's all for one house, we're trying to do this all simultaneously.
Does that need to be industrial?
Is that what it was?
I guess what they're trying to explain to the community is they're trying to be a part of the community without having to say, or they could just come anyways and not, but we get no tax revenue. If they decided to build, we couldn't stop them.
Go.
So as far as being annexed, would that change the location at all if we wanted to be part of the city of Gerald? Instead of them just coming here and going to the high school, would that move the location?
No, they're asking for that location
Okay.
to be a part of the city. Right now, it's not part of the city.
Okay. All due respect, it does sound like the city of Gerald is trying to say, okay, we want to work with you guys, but we want to stay. But if the city of Gerald decides to say no, you guys are just going to be here anyways. That's exactly what that just sounds like to me. So, yeah, that's it, I guess.
I mean, county officials are elected too, right?
Just wanted everybody to be aware of the current status.
We can go to the county and complain too. I would rather take my chances than let them come in and be annexed.
is it an oversight or?
So there's no
oversight
zoning in the
perhaps
county.
staff
There's really
questions?
nothing the county can do.
So we're basically, our hands are tied behind our backs. This is happening whether we like it or not. It's what I'm hearing.
Can they answer that? You guys over there, can they answer that?
So this is happening whether we like it or not.
I mean, we would like to be a part of the community.
How did the city tell you no to the houses, right? And then you all of a sudden changed and it's magically a data center. But it's not even part of the city and you can do what you want. So you only do it then.
We're not saying that they could do it without the city. We don't even know that as city officials, if they would be able to. But that was just something she brought up as a question mark, as, hey, if we don't annex them, I can't guarantee that they.
No control.
We have no control.
This should still
They
be a
wouldn't be able to
conversation
build
over the
it.
houses, right? Because this should have
The houses
started.
utilize too much septic system, the septic don't, you can't build enough septic system, you have to tie in the city sewer system. You don't have to do that with data centers.
Right. That's how we have control is with water and wastewater services. Businesses, if they're outside of our city limits, can utilize installing a sewer system, or septic system, which, then they don't need the city for sewer services. If they are able to find access to water in that area, there's a bunch of other businesses around there, rock quarries use a lot of water. I'm not exactly sure how they get the water, but if they're able to get water, then that's all they would need to continue the project outside of the city limits.
I guess it was.
So that's the things we have to consider on the city side. Annex them and get the money, or have the risk of them building it anyway in the county outside of the city limits and we see nothing from it, except a bunch of residents that are mad that, because we're gonna get blamed for it either way. Right? I mean.
It's gonna be a lot more accepting if you take what the residents say and actually try to fight it. Because it sounds right now like they're sitting here getting ready to strong arm you guys, and it's either take the money and run, or try to put up a fight and take the risk. And we're all sitting on this side saying we'd like to fight this, but it doesn't sound like you guys are sitting over there thinking the same thing.
I mean, there's still questions that I think we're gonna have that need to be answered before we
Yeah,
vote
absolutely.
to annex it, right? That's why this is a workshop. It's a meeting where we actually decide anything. It's to allow y'all to allow the opportunity for y'all to give input to us, and us to continue the feedback, and then further answer our questions before we ultimately decide whether to annex them and rezone it or not. So,
So is this something that you guys can talk to the county officials about?
I think in regards to not allowing it at that, the county doesn't really have zoning and regulations and stuff. If somebody in the county wants to build something, if they have water and a septic system, they can kind of do what they want to do.
Regardless of the development, it's quite clarifying, which calls on point. Regardless of the development, be residential, be industrial, be Walmart, be whatever development is. When you annex, you're annexing the land. By annexing the land to the city has a way to implement regulations, requirements, standards, and make your voice being heard more on that development. If you don't annex the land, then it goes to the county. And we can pass a message to the county, but we cannot regulate the county. And the county has no zoning regulations like we do. They pretty much, county said, sure, build it. And we can say the residents don't want it, but that's as far as the city power goes into it. Annexing the land, we have more control on it. That's different.
But can we only annex the land if they're building a data center?
We can annex the land. It doesn't mean that we are authorizing the development center.
Gotcha.
And if we annex the land and they decide not to build the development center, because that's what the majority said, the land will still annex to the city until the new property owner or they decide to be annexed voluntarily. So annexation does not automatically approve the project. It says that we have a say in the project.
Gotcha.
Where are we in the process of annexation?
We are early in the talks. This is just a 30-foot overview. They're here to answer your question, get your feedback. We haven't discussed building, we haven't plan review, we haven't talked about water, wastewater, we haven't pretty much, this is the very early stage, 30,000 foot view where we exchange ideas and they get your feedback.
So when is the vote for the annexation
Huh?
When will the vote for the annexation happen?
They will have to present it before PNC and then to the council meeting for adoption. And again, annexing a piece of property does not automatically approve the project. They will still have to go through the plan review process, meeting code, meeting standards. It's just that at that point, the city has a say, and we can tell them, no, we don't want that there. No, you need to add more buffer. No, we need more sound dampering. No, we need more structural elements. We have more say in it.
Jorge, can I interject?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Annexation requests are considered only by city council, and this developer has submitted an annexation request to be considered at the October 14th meeting. Okay.
And then they would need to get it rezoned.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Right, so that's just the first of many processes that would have to happen
So their annexation
before they could build anything.
But again, annexation does not automatically approve the project. It says that we have a saying, a louder saying into what's going into that project.
Might I ask, is it possible for staff to, I didn't know the context on the city's end, coming into this meeting, that it's not a city-owned property. Is it possible for staff to put together a fact sheet about pros and cons of this development for the community to know.
They should be like.
Okay, sure we can do that.
We can do it.
So, just to be clear, if y'all don't annex them, they basically have to find water elsewhere, is that correct? Or could they still use city water?
They could use city water if they entered into a development agreement with the city. That is a possibility. We do have some properties within the area that have city water and sewer that are not within city limits.
Isn't it with the CCM, you have to provide them water?
Yes, it did. So for the state of Texas, that they're located within our certificate of convenience and necessity area, our CCN area, then we are bound by law to require or to provide them with services, water and sewer. They would be responsible for the infrastructure for that, but we would have to provide those services to them.
So, regardless of whether they're annexed or not?
Yes, sir.
Good.
Yes, sir.
But if they're annexed, you have a say in what happens to us, pretty much what it boils down to.
In that fact sheet, I'm just proposing that. I know the counties, cities or counties can't regulate tax development, the range of buffer zones and the amount of movement seen from the property line. Perhaps that might be useful to the community to know the unfiltered development versus a filtered development.
Any further questions? Comments? I'm sure we will have more meetings that you would like to attend. I encourage you to attend. Yeah. Voice your opposition or support. Seems like most people are opposed to it, which is perfectly fine. But if nobody else has anything, we're gonna close this workshop and adjourn. 9:18 p.m.